Hey, okay, we're ready for chapter 28, and I'll try to put something different at the beginning of each one of these video clips so you can kind of keep track of it. I notice as I upload it, they all look the same. All right, nice to see you. Hey Zay, hey Kiara. Chapter 28. We're back to Nell. Woohoo! Nell, Max, and the skeleton stood in the forest in a straight line. As the clowns had instructed, the air was bitterly cold and absolutely silent, save for the scratchy rustle of the leaves on the trees. The bus was gone now. The wolf had been set free and chased away with a few stinging lashes of the large clown's vicious whip. Hours passed. Nell's legs ached. She could feel Rose curled on top of her head inside the hat. As long as she slept, she was quiet. Nell didn't dare move. She didn't even want to hold the traveler's guide. Even turning a page might wake Rose, so she did nothing but stand. Max, on the other hand, thumbed through the mystic book, his face fixed with a look of awe. Shivers had not moved for the longest time, but stood perfectly still in the darkness, his red eyes staring intensely at Nell, who looked at the black ground to avoid his penetrating gaze. "The book," Max said, turning his head and whispering in Nell's ear. Nell knew what Max meant. The book hadn't failed her yet. The fearless traveler's guide would have the answer or a weapon, some way to fight clowns and win. Nell thought about what Badger had said about the Minder, about jumping into the darkness, leaping into the unknown, and suddenly an idea came to Nell. It was a long shot, a ridiculous, crazy plan. In fact, it was a stupid plan. Ooh, sounds like it's going to be good. And as Max had said, stupid plans were the best. To make it work, she'd have to act as though she had not a care in the world. Running in through her mind, as she steeled herself and began. She lifted her head casually to the clown, as though they were about to play a friendly game of tennis, and asked, "Did you bring your rule book?" "Book?" The clown spat as if the word was poison. Not a book, a rule book," Nell said brightly. "I only fight to the death, using the Dreamland's rules, established by the Death Fight Dreamer. If we are using the Wicked Place's rules, I'm going to have to check my own book." "There aren't any rules in a death fight," he said, sneering. "No rules? You can't have a fight without rules. I told Frisia Skull you'd said that." Nell shook her head and bit her lip as though at the thought of the headless queen. The sound of Frisia Skull's name made Shivers tense. Without a sound, he walked closer to Nell, as if he didn't want to be speaking about the Queen of the Dark Daughters too loudly in case there were spies in the woods. "What does she have to do with it?" he asked. Nell knew at that moment she had him. The clown had fallen for it. She had laid the trap. Now all she had to do was reel him in. She shook her head as though she was about to say was painful, almost too horrible to recall. Keep it real, Nell told herself. That was the key to making a lie sound convincing. "And thanks to you, I won the token to the ghost stew at Crypt," she said. "We were on our way to see Ravenhead, but we were too late. Frisia Skull had put him under her spell and was taking his body with her to Ravenscrack. But of course, you already knew that." "Taken Ravenhead?" Shivers said. His sneer seemed to reveal that he didn't believe it, but his eyes said differently. They darted to the trees as he realized something that had been nagging him. "Yes, look around," Nell said with authority. "Not a lot of birds out lately. They're disappearing, and when Ravenhead dies, they'll all go. You won't even remember they existed. Your favorite meal will be gone forever." Shivers touched the necklace of the bird skulls around his neck softly, and without thinking, where'd I go? Ran his blue tongue across his lips. Ew. Nell continued spinning her plan, feeling a growing confidence that not only would she have a chance to look at her fearless traveler's guide, but that it alone would save her. As you know, Frisia Skull had turned my mother into a bird, and I was hoping Ravenhead could break the spell. But she caught Max and me, and then that little girl of hers, Fen, she separated Max's hand from his body. The clown stared at Lefty, who was perched on Max's shoulder. Max understood what Neil was doing and joined in. She used a rusty blade, he said, recalling the pain. For me, she wanted a punishment that was even more painful, Nell said. She said, I'm going to keep your bird, but I have something better for you. Instead of twisting off your head now, I'm sending you through the forest to face the clowns. But then I told her how I cheated you at dice. Cheated? Shivers said, his eyes narrowing. You cheated? Oh, and you fell for it. Everyone was in on it. Badger, the mustache dreamer. I knew it, Shivers muttered, as if suddenly his loss made sense. Frisia said that while you were a fool, you were an okay fighter. Okay? He snarled. That's how she rates Venom's Shivers? I told her I thought you were less than okay, and I bet her I'd make it through alive, and what's more, I'd bring back a clown's nose. Is that so? The sad clown roared in offense, jumping off the train. Shivers shot a look, and he froze in his tracks. Go on, Shivers said to Nell. Well, Frisia Skull said if I did return with a clown's nose, she'd let my mother go. Really? Shivers snorted. But she told me I couldn't use any Fearless Traveler's tricks. I promised her that it would be a fair fight with rules, and to make sure we all agree, I will read them aloud. So as soon as we check the rules books, Nell said, we can begin. Well, we don't have no books, the clown snarled. But I do, Nell answered brightly, trying to mask her glee at how this had all worked out. Of course you do, Shivers spat. Nell felt a drip of sweat on her forehead. Shivers sounded awfully suspicious. Maybe I'm wrong, she thought. Maybe he sees right through my plan. It was too late to stop now, though. Yes, Nell said, her voice tinged with a tremble. My book will tell me exactly what we need to know. Well, then take it out, Shivers boomed, his mouth foaming with spittle. Won't help you. A wave of relief swept over Nell, and this was her chance. The Fearless Traveler's Guide would have an answer, maybe even a weapon on the page. It would save her the same way it had saved her from the Dark Daughters. As Max handed Nell the book, Shivers put his dagger back in his belt and took a small horn bulb from his coat. He gave the bulb a quick squeeze, and from it shot a long sword blade. He swung it through the air viciously, and the force of his swipe sent a threatening cold breeze against her cheeks. Nice work, Max said in encouragement as Nell removed the ancient leather-bound book from her pocket and held it before them. It will be just like an alarm clock, Nell whispered. There'll be a weapon or a spell or something to help. I know it. She cracked open the Fearless Traveler's Guide. The pages were blank. A warm light flushed her face. She had to clear her mind, to focus on what she needed, and then what she needed would appear. She closed her eyes and said to herself, My name is Nell Perkins. I am surrounded by clowns. In a flash, the blank page began to fill with a thin line of black ink. A line curled around and formed itself into a drawing of a witch's old bent clawed finger. The clawed finger moved across the page slowly, leaving words trailing behind it, and as they appeared, Max read them out loud. Rules for fighting clowns. Max glanced up. All eyes and hopes hung on his every word. The rules for fighting clowns in the wicked places are strict and simple, Max continued, raising his voice so all could hear. There is only one. The rule is this. There are no rules, he said, suddenly confused. Nell stared at the book. No rules? It couldn't be. That's wrong, she said nervously. This is a trick. More words were appearing, And Max kept reading, hoping that another answer would follow. "You will fight." "No," Nell said. "No." But that is what the guide said. And as she learned, it only spoke the truth. No one could save her from this dark place but herself. Fighting was the only choice, and it was no choice at all. There was a whoosh as Shiver's sword smacked the book out of Nell's hand. It hit the dirt with a dry thud. Nell looked up, and Shivers had the tip of his sword to her throat. "You heard the rules," he said, his smile malicious and full of glee. "Now take out your weapon, and let's see who loses a nose." Nell felt sick to her stomach. As if sensing her agony, Rose began to flutter her wings beneath the bowler hat. Nervously, Nell put her hand on the side of the dark round hat. Please keep quiet, she thought. Any noise would tip them off. The umbrella was pressed against her leg, the only weapon they had. All the skeletons had backed away from Nell and Max, so they were alone where standing before... Wait, let me do that again. All the skeletons had backed away from Nell and Max, so they were alone, standing before Shivers. Nell glanced back at the bus passengers. They smiled, and the little girl's mother whispered, "Thank you." All were holding out hope that any second Nell would unleash her umbrella and, with the legendary skill of a fearless traveler, send the clouds running. Clowns, sorry. "Go on," the bus driver said with encouragement. "Go on. Show them what you've been sworn to do." "Nell," Max was holding her arm, "don't do this. You can't." But Nell hadn't any choice. She had taken a gamble and failed. If she tried to run now, she would be caught. And though she didn't believe it, she patted Max's hand, shook her head, and said, "It'll be fine. If something happens, can you try to find my brothers and bring my mother to Vazenkrak?" "No!" "No?" Nell sputtered. "It's me!" Max screamed at the clowns. "I'm the fearless traveler. Fight me!" There was a crack of a whip and a bright flash as the metal tip shot through the air like a bullet and slashed Max's face. He yelled and stumbled back in pain. Lefty pressed himself against Max's torn skin. Max was furious. He peeled Lefty off him in a rage. A red wound in the shape of a smiley face now lay across Max's cheek. The big clown swung the whip overhead menacingly, waiting to take a second shot. "The girl!" the big clown instructed. "I'm ready," Nell said quietly, stepping forward, reaching behind her. She slid the tightly wound umbrella from its scabbard and turned to face the clown. Her hands were shaking, the umbrella shivering like a stick of licorice. Max touched her arm. She looked up. The wound on his face was fresh with blood. "Oh, Max," she said, sighing. "I'm fine." He winced through the sting and looked into Nell's eyes, needing her to hear him. "Listen. The book said one more thing. It says, when in trouble, remember. But when fighting, forget." "Forget?" Nell said. "I read this in the guide. I think it means forget the idea that the umbrella belongs to you, because it doesn't. It belongs to the night. Let the night flow through you." Nell nodded, remembering how graceful Badger had been when she had seen him fight, moving like the night spreading across the world. In 3 steps, Nell was standing face to face with Shivers, nearly gagging from the rank smell that oozed off him. Mold and rot, a blue tongue darting out of his mouth and ran across his pointy teeth. Ew. "Any last words?" he asked. "No," Nell said, shaking her head, trying not to breathe. She tried to picture herself over a dark lake jumping into the known, but her mind was blank. All she could see were Shivers' horrible teeth. She already felt like a failure. "Then prepare to die," the clown said. On the 3rd crack of the whip, the big clown swung the whip over his head. Crack! Nell held tight to her umbrella. This was it. This was no choice now. It was time to leap into the unknown. Crack! Nell took a step towards Shivers. As she did, her heart raced, and a rippling noise rang through Nell's ears as a current of energy flowed over her body and concentrated itself in the umbrella. Before, before she had merely heard the sound, but now the sensation was real. It was happening. Nell took another step. The umbrella began to heat up. A quick wisp of electric blue light ran up the handle and crackled along the tip. Crack! The third whip sounded, and Nell didn't think, for all thoughts had been drowned out, replaced by the sound of the night crashing through her ears. It was a wild roar, a mad shout, a rush of wind, a clatter of rain. It was all she could hear, and it was beautiful. Nell dashed at Shivers, red hot with anger. He saw her coming and sneering, bringing his sword down fast and hard, but Nell, following the slight tug of the umbrella, darted left. From where Max stood, he could see Nell shrouded in a flickering cloud of tiny stars, bright and electric. Ah, the night, Max gasped. Nell felt it as well. She was fighting and moving and thinking, but another force was guiding her. Being her, and she was being it. Her movements were no longer the movements of a child, but the graceful curve of the moon rising. Gosh, we love this book. The clown's blade missed Nell, coming close enough for her to hear it whistle past. Nell followed the tug of the umbrella again, pivoted and swung with all she had. The umbrella struck the clown's arm, a crackle of blue light slicing through his coat, and he grunted in pain. But Nell did not stop. Good thing. Understanding the way of the umbrella, one with the night, her energy flowing with the force of a current of water shooting down a mountain after a violent summer rain. The fight began full on, the dark sky filled with the clash of weapons and the grunt and huff of fighters, each looking for an advantage, but the advantage was all Nell's. Again and again she found a weakness, slashing the clown, burning hot holes in his overcoat, raising a few wounds on his face. 2 more good shots and his arms would be useless. The other 2 clowns were throwing stones at Nell, and one stone slammed into her bowler hat. Rose let out a song from inside the hat, and her mother's familiar bird voice startled her. The light that was surrounding Nell vanished, her energy cut off. Shivers, seeing his opening, kicked her hard in the stomach with his dirty boot. Nell doubled over and gasped for breath as the pain of the kick blasted through her body like a bomb. Anger replaced all her senses. Her ears rang with the rush of water flowing. The night had awoken inside her once more. Deep, powerful, endless, night, roaring. Nell leapt up and charged, swinging the umbrella like a master swordsman. Her skill was overpowering. Lines of blue light crackled from the umbrella's tip and trailed through the darkness in great arcs and swirls. Try as he might, Shivers was no match for her, and could not deflect any of her blows. 2 more slashes to his legs, and he was defeated. He sank to his knees. "You won't be needing that," Nell said, giving a harsh slash to his sword, and in a bright blue flash the weapon melted. Great globs of metal hit the dirt before him. Shivers' yellow eyes were wide in disbelief. He had been defeated by a child. Nell was breathing hard. She held the sparkling blue tip of the umbrella to Shivers' defiant face. "Go on," he snarled. "Get it over with. Off with my head." "I'm no clown," Nell said, not taking her eyes off him. "We're leaving now, and you and your friends are going to be our prisoners." "Oh, please," the clown whimpered. Nell looked into his eyes for a moment, wondering if the trembling clown was actually scared. There was any real feeling hidden beneath his makeup? Could a nightmare have ever known any sort of kindness or ever imagine what it meant to try to save another? "You don't understand." Shivers began to cry. "It's okay," Nell said kindly, feeling sorry for him. But Nell's kindness was her undoing. A large stone hit her on the back of the head. knocking off her bowler hat. It landed upside down in the dirt. Rose peeked her bright red out of the bowler, and quick as a wink, the clown's pale... Oh, wait, something happened to my computer. Okay. A large stone hit her on the back of the head, knocking off her bowler hat. It landed upside down in the dirt. Rose peeked her bright red head out of the bowler, and quick as a wink, you know what's going to happen? The clown's pale hand darted out and grabbed Rose, squeezing as though he was trying to snuff the life out of her. Rose chirped in pain, and the clown brought the bird to his face, opening his pointy teeth ready to bite. "Stop!" No gasped, holding the cracking blue tip of the umbrella at his face. "Touch me and you'll burn up this little bird along with me," he said coldly and smiled wide, knowing he now had the upper hand. "Give her back." "I don't think so." "Give her back." "Put down your weapon," Shivers said. "I'll trade you the bird for your umbrella. The minute I do, you'll take me prisoner." "Yeah, that's right, but I won't kill you or this bird." Yeah, I don't believe him. I'll just sell you and your friends to the Spider Dreamer. What he does with you ain't my business, but at least you'll live. Well, for now, that is." Nell looked at Rose in confusion. "Better make up your mind," said Shivers. "This tasty bird smells delicious." A string of drool dripped from the clown's pointed fangs and splashed on Rose's head. He was breathing hard and his hands shaking at having the treat of a fresh bird so close to his lips. And that's chapter 28. All right, I'll read chapter 29 after I upload this. See you guys.